So items in Deadlock, they might still be a little bit confusing, and that's where I'm here to help. In Deadlock, you can purchase from 3 different item categories. First, we have the weapon category, which are all orange. Then Vitality, which is your health and healing and defense, that is green. And then your spirit, which is purple. Essentially how you break it down, weapon is just your basic attacks like this, where health items and defense will just increase your health and defense, and spirit will actually increase your ability damage. So if you hold tab, you can hover over your abilities and actually see how much these are increased by the spirit. Now all the characters will have these default builds that the game just recommends to you, as well as you can browse builds, looking to public ones and find what everyone else is using. We're diving right into the basics. So you can actually hover over your stats here in the bottom left, and it gives you everything that you need to know. How much your bullets actually deal in damage, your fire rate, how much ammo you have, and reload time. Also giving you a quick info guide at the top where it says the weapon stats, incendiary remarks, a rapid fire and medium range, and also says the damage fall off. And then you can actually hover your cursor over these to see how much of an effect your items are making on your character. So if we go into the weapons and buy basic magazine, just hovering this gives you enough information to get an idea of what buying this actually does, which is really helpful for new players. So by hovering this, we can see it's giving us plus 24% ammo capacity and plus 15% weapon damage. You might go, I don't know, what is that doing? But then if you look to the right, it will actually say how much it is increasing your ammo by. So you don't have to do the math. The math is already being done for you, which is really helpful for people like me. We can actually see that the ammo is being increased from 27 up to 34, and the bullet damage from 7 to 7.99. For your health, pretty much the same thing. So one of the very basic health items is extra health, and as you can see, 160 bonus health and plus 5% weapon damage. It tells you how much your health is going to be increased immediately, and then also says the modifiers, the bullet damage, it being increased, and your melee again. I also didn't mention that the tiers, your cheap, your average, your expensive, and then your really expensive items. Just by purchasing one of these, you actually get a buff just from the purchase. So for example, with the extra health, you can see here it says base health plus 11% just from buying this. Additionally, with the 160 bonus health. This plus 11% is actually increased on the more expensive one. So if we go down to the 1,250 souls, it's up by 14%. For the 3,000, it's up by 17% bonus health. And then on the 6,200, you're actually getting 20% bonus health. So if we buy 4 of the very, very expensive items, then we should be able to get 80% vitality, increasing our health from 600 to 1,430. And this is the same for your weapons, going from 6% damage, 10%, 14, and 18, as well as your spirit going from plus 4 spirit power, plus 8, plus 12, and then plus 16. So most of the spirit is more utility and increasing your spirit, so you're really focusing on your abilities and improving your abilities. So if you're a very heavy ability champ, you're probably looking to upgrade your spirit first. This is where the modifiers little section here, this is really helpful for learning new characters. For example, we have no spirit at the moment, but if we do hover the extra spirit, we can see this gives an extra 9 spirit power plus the additional 4 for the item itself, which gives us a total of plus 13. And if we look at the modifiers, we can actually see how much damage this is increasing our abilities. So our 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if we hover the boundless spirit, you can also see how much of an increase it really is. Another way to see this is actually holding tab and then just hovering over, like I mentioned before. In here, you can actually see how much the spirit is being modified to increase the amount of damage that it's doing. Where it has the little spirit icon and it'll have times 0.3, that's showing you how effective the spirit scaling is. So it's not 1 spirit equals 1 damage. They'll have modifiers like this. For example, his flame dash is times 0.7. So getting more spirit power actually increases his flame dash more than the catalyst ability. Be sure to read the character's abilities and see which ones actually scale really well with more spirit. So the more spirit, the more powerful that it will be. So for his ultimate, it is actually 1-to-1 scaling. So 1 spirit power will equal 1 extra damage. So that's the very, very basics of the items in Deadlock. Now onto the hard-hitting question is what to build. So each character is pretty unique and will benefit from different types of things. You can build characters in different ways and it might not be the best, but it's always good to try new things and see what works for the character. But I do recommend taking the time and just going into the practice mode like I am now and just reading some of the items. So for example, Soul Shredder is pretty good for Infernus. It gives him extra weapon damage, but then the passive of it is that the abilities apply a debuff that amplifies your spirit damage against the target and grants you spirit lifesteal against them. So one, increasing his bullet damage, which is good because he likes to shoot and that's his primary focus of damage. And then because Infernus's third ability is actually this burn, which applies after he lands a lot of shots. So having that spirit resist is really good for this. And then you're thinking, okay, now I want to activate that a lot quicker. So then you would be looking more into fire rate. So something like Swift Striker increases your fire rate by 22%, or Burst Fire, which is another 12%. So you're able to proc his Afterburn a lot quicker with higher fire rate. So there's a lot of things where characters will be able to work better off different items. That's pretty much the gist how you want to work your weapon items, but if you are more of a caster, you really don't want to put too many points into here. For vitality, one core thing is actually hitting tab during a game. In this part here, you can actually see how much weapon, health, and spirit items the enemy has purchased. And this goes into what you should build on your vitality. So if you see they have a lot of weapon damage like this bar, I would recommend buying bullet armor instead of spirit armor because you are going to be getting shot a lot more because they have a lot of weapon damage over spirit damage. Because this is increasing your bullet resist comparing to increasing your spirit resist. So you're really trying to optimize and use defensive stats as best as possibly can. So by looking at the enemy team, you should be able to see what they're building into. So if they're building a lot of spirit. So if the purple bar keeps getting bigger and bigger on majority of the champions, then I would recommend getting the spirit armor instead of the bullet armor. So you're really making most of your money at the time. Things like that can have a big impact, especially even early game. So for example, during spirit gives 10% spirit lifesteal, so any spirit damage that you deal, you'll actually heal a little bit of that damage, which is really good for the early sustain, and you're able to stay in lane. If you are dying a lot early game, you probably want to look into something like the extra health regen or enduring spirit. And then going into spirit, it's a lot of different options that you have here, like extra charge, for example, which gives another charge on your core abilities. So for Infernus, he's got an extra charge of his one ability. This is good for characters like McGinnis, which you're able to put down an extra turret. A duration extender, also a really good one to look at the modifiers. So this increases his dash time and the debuff duration, stun duration. It's all good stuff, easy to read, really good information to pick up before you make a purchase on an item in the game. Now, if you're new to MOBAs, I would recommend trying to stay away from the active items if you're still getting used to just playing the characters, because adding the actives will add another layer on top of what you're already doing. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. If you do have anything which I have missed or still wondering about, please leave me a comment in the comment section down below and I'll be sure to get a reply to you. I think I pretty much covered everything to do with the shop. To the better players than what I am, if I did miss something or a good useful tip, please also leave that in the comments for myself to learn, because I would love to know, and for everyone else. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.